As referenced in the introduction, here are the tools you will need to conduct preventative and corrective maintenance on Automower. Note, the cordless adjustable screw gun can only be used when disassembling a mower. It can never be used when reassembling. We will start with the 115H shell. The removal is easy. Start by removing the top cover, which will allow you to get access to the shell. The hatch will also need to be removed. Use the special tool we call the rocket tool to remove the shell from the chassis. Inside the shell, we will find two magnets used as proximity sensors to trigger a lift error or message in the front or rear of the unit. To access the 300 and 400 series chassis, first put the mower on its back and disconnect the cables. There are three cables present on the 450X. The first one for the battery charge, then one for the ultrasonic sensors, and finally one for the headlights. The numbers will differ depending on each model. After this step, put the mower back on its wheels and detach the shell. The 400 series is equipped with 4 mounting points, 2 in the front and 2 in the rear. The 2 mounting points in the front are used to detect lift action. One of the rear mounting points is used for collision detection in the rear. Under the shell, we can find the charging plate. This plate keeps the charging ports on the mower in place. It also holds the magnet used for collision detection on the front. The charging plate color used to be black, now it's white. The magnet type has been replaced, and the magnet plastic support has been improved. Let's talk about the 300 series. Start by disconnecting the cable. There is only one cable on a 315. 300 series is equipped with 3 mounting points, 2 in the back and 1 in the front. The one in the front is also connected to the lift sensor. The shell is also equipped with the charging plate. Dimensions will differ from the 400 series. Here we will find the magnet used for the front collision detection. This is the front collision magnet from another angle. Here is the rear magnet position, which is mounted on the rear bumper. Let's look at the different components of the Automower. The motherboard or main board, the ultrasonic sensor board, the loop signal board with its 2 sensors mounted on the board, the cutting height motor board, the front lift sensor board and its magnet, the rear collision sensor on the 400 series placed on one of the rear mounting pillars. If the body bumps into an object, the magnet moves away from the sensor and a rear collision is triggered. On the 300 series, the rear collision sensor is mounted on the main board. The associated magnet is mounted on the shell, to be more precise, on the rear bumper. Here we see a lift sensor. 2 are found on the 400 series, 1 on the 300 series. Let's look at how they work. We can see on the video on the left the magnet aligned with the lift sensor board. When the magnet is not in front of the sensor, a lift message is triggered. This is the COM board, found on every X model. You can see it in place here on a 400 series mounted to the top chassis. The HMI board, and finally the keypad board. In this section, we'll cover the most common problems and how to diagnose them. One of the causes for abnormal noise can come from the cutting system. The root cause of the noise is often due to the screw holding the cutting plate. To access the screw, remove the safety plate. Be sure the screw is correctly torqued. Use the workshop manual to find the correct torque value. Here we're in the menu to test the wheel motors. Be sure to choose the wheel motor for this test. Here we are in the process of testing the wheel motors. During this test, one of the wheels does not turn. Before ordering a wheel motor, the first step will be to check the nut holding the wheel. The wheel nut can come loose and cause a no drive issue. Another check is to be sure the socket on the main board is properly connected. In this example, the operation could be erratic. This malfunction may show faster on bumpy terrain. If the motor needs to be replaced, remove the 4 screws holding the motor. When there is any mechanical or electrical issue with the motor, it needs to be replaced. It can't be repaired. Unplug the socket on the main board, cut the zip tie with care, and remove the motor. Then replace it. Another tip regarding the 300 series main board: if a motor has to be replaced, make sure you respect the wheel motor socket position on the main board. The left motor must be plugged into the L position, and the right motor must be plugged into the R position. As you can see on this image, the main board sockets are labeled to avoid any mistake. On the 300 series, when pushing the stop button, a mechanical and an electromechanical action are triggered. The button associated with the stop button activates a microswitch positioned under the control panel. If no action happens on the keyboard when the control panel is opened, you will need to verify the microswitch and the connectors. If the cutting system must be removed, it is important to remember that the cutting height motor board must be removed first. The sensor has a U-shape on the circuit board and is inserted on the gear wheel from the cutting system. This video shows you how the sensor fits on the gear wheel. Therefore, it is essential to remove the board before removing the cutting system, and essential to put it back in place after the cutting system is already in place. In this example, the mower comes up with a collision error, so running in the working zone is impossible. The first step to visualize this is to get into the Quick Info menu, or Info in the Tools menu. To get to the Quick menu, press and hold 0 for 5 seconds. Go to Info and then select Sensors. When looking at the display, the front sensor shows yes, meaning the front collision sensor is triggered. The collision board might be at fault. We should check all connections and the magnet associated with the sensor. Everything has to be correctly functional. In our example, we are managing the collision error by playing with the magnet position. In the past, some errors came from the front magnet holder, which would wear abnormally. The black support has since been replaced by the white support, which has corrected this issue. In most cases, the mower would stop in the middle of the working zone. The front magnet could be retrieved where the mower stopped. Here's a specific example. In this case, the plastic support has worn out, but the magnet is still in place. So let's talk about the symptoms and mower behavior. In the working zone, the mower would stop for no obvious reason before reaching the boundary wire. The mower would change direction as if a collision had occurred. We ran some tests before disassembling the mower and did not show any specific issue. A visual inspection was necessary to understand this abnormal behavior. There can be multiple issues related to the loop or guide signals. It would be impossible here to talk about all of them. Therefore, we will only talk about how to diagnose. In the Quick Info tab, select Loop. The loop values will populate on the display. They can never be under 40. In this example, the mower is docked. Loop signals are almost identical, but the front loop signals are a bit higher than the rear loop signals due to the location of the sensors. In another example, here 2 of the values are at 0. As we look closer, we can see that the values come from the front loop sensors. Therefore, the first step will be to check all connections before replacing the board. To get to the charge station circuit board, these 2 screws need to be removed first. Once the screws are removed, simply pull up on the front half of the assembly. Then disconnect your charge plate cable. Then the upper assembly can be removed. Next, disconnect the remaining cables from the circuit board. The circuit board is simply held in by two plastic clips on either side. While the top assembly is still detached, let's take a look at the charging plates. There are two charging plates, one on either side, and they should be spring-loaded. Examine the charging plates for any wear or damage. This charging plate has a groove cut in it from the mower going in and out of the charging station often. These plates will wear over time. Here it is compared to a new one. Let's check for proper voltage at the charge station. This is a 115H charge station. The voltage we're looking for is 28 volts DC. This is how we check it on a 300 or 400 series. It should also be 28 volts DC. If the voltage is incorrect, the next place we should go to is the power supply. The contacts on these plugs are very small and hard to get to, therefore you need adapters like these. With the power supply plugged in, this is how we should test this. Again, we're looking for 28 volts DC. As a special note, on any unit using a 7 amp power supply, the two wires going through the connector are on the outside terminals. As you notice, each wire is on the outside, the middle terminal is blank. For all other models, notice that the wires are side by side in the connector, leaving the end terminal open. If the wrong low voltage cable or power supply is used on the wrong model, power will not continue to travel from one end to the other, and you'll have no power at the charge station. You will find the download for the AutoCheck 3 in the Power site. Click on the Service tab. Click on Automower. Scroll down till you find the download link. Follow instructions on your particular computer for installation. Once you open the program and have a mower connected by USB, click on the Connect tab. And here's the home page. Here we can download any new firmware. To run an auto test, click this tab. Select All. The program will walk you through the auto test. If there's a specific item you need to check, choose Manual. From here, you can choose specific items to test. Next, we'll go to the Actions tab. Next, click on Logbook. Let's look at the Documents tab. Now always remember you can use the Help tab. As you can see, there's a lot of information in the Help tab. Here is an example of a wheel motor test. The wheel motors will turn, so be sure to raise the mower off the ground. This test will check the motors under load.